Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. More big news coming out of the LCS today. As you can see, LEC Wooloo tweeting out this. Sources, jungler SANTORIN has reached a verbal agreement with Dignitas LOL. The LCS champion will reunite with Jensen, who he played with on Team Liquid in 2021. Now, again, I talked about the Jensen move, in the last video. I think it came out probably like a couple hours ago, something like that. And at that time, I was like, Jensen didn't really perform that well last year. I don't really think this shows Dignitas as being more aggressive, spending more money, whatever. But this one is a little bit different. SANTORIN, while Team Liquid did underperform, and while there's very, very fair to be critical of SANTORIN somewhat, I think a lot of people would say SANTORIN was probably the top performing, or at the very worst, second best performing member on Team Liquid last season, and for sure one of the better junglers in the LCS. So this is actually a big pickup for Team Dignitas, and not only that, I think it is kind of a big loss for some other teams who potentially could have benefited pretty greatly from SANTORIN's services. A team like FlyQuest, TSM, maybe even like a CLG or something like that. One of these other teams that was maybe going to be in the market for a jungler. Big pickup for Dignitas, like Wooloo says, pairing him up with a mid laner he has played with before. They have existing synergy. They've had a little bit of success together before. It's going to be interesting. I think if you're a Dignitas fan, the 3 or 4 of you out there, whatever, this has to be like best case scenario for you guys for the offseason. You're going from, what even has your team been the last couple splits? Blue and XU and whoever, to Jensen and SANTORIN. At the very least, it's more interesting. It's more exciting. And I don't know that Jensen SANTORIN is going to be all that good, the version of them in 2023, especially with God knows what around them. If it is Armut in the top lane and, Ignar at support and blah, 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 like, it's still going to be a pretty rough team. But at least they have some kind of outside shot at getting 6th, 5th, something like that, making the playoffs, being a little bit more interesting than Dignitas had been this last year. But either way, it's going to be interesting. And I do think there's a lot of bad things about the LCS, salary cuts and salaries going down and budgets and yada, yada, yada. But if it does mean that salaries are becoming more normalized across teams, and that it actually becomes a realistic option for top players or former top players or players on the back end of their career, whatever, to join some bottom tier teams rather than having, the Stixays and Wild Turtles of the world on these teams. If we can get the guys like SANTORIN and Jensen, that's a big win for the LCS. That is a huge change. It's something I've been asking for the past couple of years. But yeah, I don't know. I still think Dignitas is overall pretty bad org, pretty uninteresting. I don't really want to root for them. I don't really want to see them do well. They have no content. They have no branding. They have no life. They have no fans, whatever. But hey, at least they're making some moves. They have a somewhat interesting roster all of a sudden with Armut, Jensen, and SANTORIN. I think you can be very, very critical of them, saying, hey, you guys have some really veteran players, some very experienced players, some very old players, and you're still not going to be very good. We'd like to see them probably have a little bit more life, have a little bit more youth, a little bit more exciting potential. You got to find the balance. You don't want too much youth with no experience and too much experience with no youth. Dignitas kind of going to have just like a weird mishmash of players coming off kind of disappointing seasons. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. SANTORIN and Dignitas is definitely big news, definitely a big deal. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.